this is Rebecca from Puppetry de Choix, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am starting a project that I'm nervous about a little bit. I have been watching several different crafters who make journals from vintage books with the original covers and using some of the original pages, and I have fallen in love with it. And I have, as I've said before, I have several, not 100, but I have over 100, I know, vintage books, and some of them have been put aside for journaling purposes. I picked this one up about 2 months ago, I think. But for the life of me right now, I can't remember where or even how much I paid, but it wouldn't have been much, probably $5 or something. When I got it, the back cover was already loose. It's got some damage, but in the nature of the videos that I've been watching, this is not a big deal, and I'm fine with that. So I'm going to show you what the inside, until I'm nervous. It's like, I don't know how to speak. It's from 1902, and this is the only picture that it has. It's about Louis the 14th, and here's the date in the Roman numerals, 1902. It's a, I wish there had been more of them, but this is volume 1, and it's like a historical, almost like a documentary type thing, I think. Not that I've read any of it, but it's got all these notes at the bottom. So it's not fiction. It's, you know, it's I guess a history sort of thing. But anyway, what I want to do is, for the purpose of making a journal, I want to widen the spine slightly, probably a ½ inch, give or take. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to do that, but I want to. And then I've got these two pieces of fabric that I want to use for the inside, in this area here, although I don't know if I want to cover this, but I probably will have to, just to make the book function. But also then to sew my signatures in, because I will want to do a hidden signatures there. So this is one scene, a little guy on the bridge and a goat with part of his face missing. And then this part, this is the one I really like the best, of a girl and a little kid under a tree, and then this donkey over here and the sheep and whatnot. So I don't know how this is going to go, but this is the project that I'm introducing, and I plan to show most of what I do on, you know, as a project from start to finish. I won't show everything, but it's something that that I want to do and share, which also will hold me accountable. And because this will be something that I'm doing on the side, while still making the journals that that I'm making for the fairs and festivals that I have coming up this spring and summer. So so that's the plan right now. So this is just my introduction to say this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm going to attempt to do. So I will be back with the next installment as soon as I do it, and I'll do some of it on camera. We'll see how that goes. Like I said, I'm venturing into new territory here. So I'm back, and I've made a couple of decisions about how and what I'm going to do, slowly but surely. This text block is glued in fairly well, it seems, from looking at it here, and it seems like the spine on this side is starting to come apart. So, and then also the front cover is starting to come apart here. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and cut this loose right down through here, so that hopefully all I leave is the spine and the text block intact. So I'm going to just kind of coax this along the same path that it's already breaking apart, and just see if I can just help it do the job just a little bit faster without going too deep or doing any unnecessary damage to what's there. Okay, that's looking good so far. I have to remember my, okay, it's starting to break apart here. And I'm beginning to wonder that this cover hasn't had maybe a little fire damage or something to it, based on the way it's crumbling. So it might be I won't be able to salvage the actual spine. I won't know until I get there, but it is looking that way. It's definitely coming apart and wanting to tear, instead of, there we go. It's a little rough, but it's not terrible. Now my concern now is this outside spine piece. It looks pretty fragile, but the other thing is these signatures are all sewn in with a thread, so I'm going to go through and clip every one. Let's see if I can find the center of one. It's right here, I can almost see it. I'm looking at the middle bottom, I think. No, that we're not quite there yet. I might have to go further into the book to find one. I did see one over this way a few minutes ago that was very easy to see. Unless my eyes are failing me, which not even going there. If I do it this way, I think I can see it better. Okay, there we go. Or there's where it should be, but I can see the mark of the thread, but I can't see the actual thread. Oh, I'm one page too far over. There we go, finally. Okay, this one is already broken. This one I'm going to snip under here. Let's see what lifts out. Oh yeah. Okay. I might have to lift them out one at a time. So what I'm going to do is turn the camera back off while I disassemble this whole thing. And then when I've done that, I'll come back and we will see what the next step entails. Okay, since I last did a filming, I put some clear gesso that turned out not to be clear on the cover. This is the front cover of the book, and then around the edges I've decided I'm going to cover this, and I have the paper. I'll show it to you in just a minute, what I'm going to put as end papers on the inside. But I've done this one, and in the same thing, because since I did this one, I wanted to follow the same procedure so I would get the same outcome. So what I did is I picked up this at the thrift store, and it says it's clear, but it goes on, it's white, and I thought, okay, well, like glue, it'll dry clear, but it doesn't. It dries translucent, but it does not dry clear. So I did not test anything before I did it. I just did it, took it for its word, and I didn't like how it turned out. It was so faded, as you can see here. So what I did to bring the color back out, and I actually like it better than I did the original, is on a video, if I can remember to link it, a project I did, I think back in January. I had watched a video of a lady who used ink to bring out the details in some old photography, in her old photographs, and so I thought, okay, well, if it did it for that, it might do it for this, and it worked. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I just had to grab it off my little table. I'm using Ranger Coffee Archival and my little brush, and that's all I did here. And I did this about 3 or 4 hours ago, so it's nice and dry. It's evened out real well, and it just looks so much better. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to turn it the way it's supposed to go so I can keep my orientation in my head. So, and I colored everything on this side of the book and on the crevices around the inside. Now, this book is not in the best shape, obviously, but it's still, for the project that I'm going to make, it's still, you know, good. So what I'm doing is just putting this coffee ink and covering up everywhere that the clear gesso that wasn't clear. And I think it might spread and soak in. I don't know what it does, but all I know is when I put it on as evenly as I could, but there were places where, like in this place where it's a little lighter, has more like more of the natural colors and yellows than, say, down here where there's more red. I put a little more ink there, and it still turned out very uniform. So that's what I'm going for here. But it took it probably a good hour to reach the color from me doing it to this nice rich brown in here. So I'm going to give it a good coat all over, and then I'll come back in a little bit and see how it looks, and then if I need to add more, I can. But it's already changing it considerably, for which I'm glad. So, lesson learned, the Only thing I'll be using that for now is if I want to, you know, put some gesso on some book pages or something to make the print opaque or kind of hide it. I won't use it for this sort of thing anymore at all. So I'm just going to really darken up around the lines here. But the one thing, I guess the positive part is the gesso did seal it, so there's not any more breakage or anything like that. And I think these little pieces, they look and kind of feel like were, you know, actual leather. If I don't know what else would look like that from 1902, you know, the plastics and vinyls and things like that we have today weren't quite as readily available or even invented yet, so that's what I'm assuming. I'm going to go right up this line here and put a little bit of darker. Now it's really starting to color up now. So I think it's going to end up looking better than it did originally because that ink is really bringing out the depths of these layers, and I really like that. So I'm turning it in the light to see if there's any places that I've missed or that needs another good rub. And right now I don't see any, so what I'm going to do, you can see here how I did it on this paper. I'm just going to go over this a little bit on these edges here and along that. Just to sort of color them up. Because these edges, I will leave the way they are. It's just where the paper is, I'm going to recover that. Go around this edge right here just a little bit more. And right here a little bit more. Okay, let's see how it looks now. Definitely better. This one, it's still a little dampish. It's hard to see, but it is. But it already looks 1000% better. Now, I don't know how this one is going to turn out, but maybe not bad at all. This is just the spine, and I'll show you everything that I have from taking the book apart here in just a minute. Because I do want to use this in, but I might end up using this in the book as a piece of ephemera instead of part of the spine. I have not made up my mind about that yet. But I do want to use it regardless. Okay. I've got a little thread. So that's going to be that. And then here is the back side of the spine. When I got right to the end of taking the pages out, it came loose completely. So here are all the pages. This is where they were bound in, and I got all of them except just a few in the front where they were actually glued, and just a few in the back here, all as their, you know, double page spread. And and they're all in the order that they came. And it's funny, that book was so thin, you know, it was this thick. And it's funny, you don't realize how compressed pages are in a book until you start taking one apart. But anyway, this is all the pages out of the book, 400 and almost 500, 598. Seems like not very many. Don't seem like 500. And this one, it's kind of faded, but it has this gold paint around, well, the top. It's not on the front. The front was quite rough. It may have been on the bottom, but it's all gone if it is, but definitely on the top it had it. So that's all the pages. Now, I have these two books that I picked up at a thrift store, not at the same time, and when I got the second one, whichever one it is, I thought, well, I already have that, but that'll give me more. Well, it turns out they got different papers in them, so that worked out very well. This one is the first one I got, and it's just wrapping paper, but you know, it's the vintage designs, and from the cover, it's, if I can turn it back over, French Flowers, 19th Century Textile Designs. And so I thought, well, that's in keeping with the theme I'm going for, and I wanted to use this one, and I might actually, now that I've come back in, but the one that I picked out is actually this one in the back. This one. I felt like that was a better contrast, where this one, it's like the reds are all vying for attention, where on this one to me it shows up better. So this is the one I'm going to go with. So that's what I'm going to be putting as the end papers. And while I'm here, I'll just go ahead and do a flip through of this one. I think this one's a little newer. It's got more. I've not really looked at the copyright. This one's 89. Well, they're both 89, but they have different papers, and the intro is also different. This one has a lot of black and white images. There's a couple in here that's the same, but this one is different. And I think this one is. This one is. We do have that one, and somebody had used a piece or two out of this one. And then this one is the same. This one's different, and I can't wait to use this one. I got to find me a book to use this one with, but I'm just drooling over that one. But anyway, we'll not go there just yet. So that is what I've got done so far with the cover. And so the next thing, I can sort of set this up as it's going to go something like this. And I'm thinking of using the little goats here, because I really don't know what else I would use the goats for. But the spine is like an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter wide, and I want to make the book at least 2 inches wide. So what I want to do is reinforce this whole section here so that the spine looks something like this. That's my plan. And also where the goats are, there's a lot of red, and I wanted that red to show through. And so that leaves, and I'll be, cutting it about here. So that leaves me this whole scene over here that I was going to use on the inside for the signature as my plan, or for the whole text block rather. So that's kind of where I'm leaving it for the minute. until I'm ready to do the next section. I'm going to look, I think I might end up putting another little bit of ink on this. I know the pattern's completely different, but I like how these darker streaks came out. They're like really prominent, and so I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come in and just put another coat on it, to, especially where the dark red is, to help bring some of that out so that it coordinates a little better. So I'll turn the camera back on when I'm ready to do the next part. So the next step that I have done, and I'll do part of it with you, is I wanted to cover the rough edge of where the spine came loose from the covers. And so I've done the back one, and I have used a piece of the wrapping paper that I showed you yesterday, and I just cut me a 2-inch strip from the piece that I had, or two 2-inch strips. And so I've finished it this way, and I'm going to do a little trick that I learned years and years ago when I started to sew. If you wanted to make your own bias tape or seam binding type, bias tape, to get a finished edge, just fold whatever you have in half, like so, and then open it up and then fold it in half to the middle, or just slightly shy of the middle in this case, and try to keep it as straight as possible, because if it's fabric it usually goes pretty good, but paper sometimes has a mind of its own. And then do it from the other side, like that. And then just smooth it out, and it should just fold right over to give you a 1/2 inch width on either side. So now I'm going to do, this is the front, and it's a little bit more uneven, so I'm going to take my little bitty scissors and just cut that one little section off, and just cut that one slightly, just enough so that it's a little bit more even. It's not going to be perfect because it is in such bad shape. And then I want to make sure my flowers are going in the right direction. This is going to go this way, so it needs to be this side. I don't want my flowers to be upside down while I'm doing this. So this is actually almost the same as that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a little PVA glue, and I'm just going to glue the length of this part that is the length, roughly the length of the book. And I'm going to fold it down. Make sure that when you put it down, one, you don't want any glue seepage, so you put it back far enough in there that when it does spread out, it don't seep out. But the other thing is you want to keep that fold in the middle of your of the book edge, so that your paper, or if it's fabric, is even here. You don't want one side out longer than the other side. And so that's going to have to dry for a second. And so once it's dry, I'll come back with the next step. Okay, just like in sewing, you want finished edges. So I'm going to cut each end at roughly ½ inch, give or take a little bit. And I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to cut. Now this part needs to be straight and accurate as possible, but I'm going to cut right to the fold line on this inside flap, and then I'm going to cut a diagonal from this corner to where I stopped there, like that, and then do the same thing on this side. Then I'm going to put just a tiny bit of glue here and here and fold this little triangle up and around. And I'm going to spread my glue out a little bit because I didn't get it in the right place. So you just want to fold that up. And this also, it needs to get completely glued down before you go on to the next step. And so usually, or what I did on this other one, I just kind of held it with my fingers until it started to set. Okay, so these little corners are dry now, and so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a tiny bit of glue along that line, and you can see here also how the cover is uneven. It's wider here than here, so I'm allowing space for that so that my cover is the same size all the way around. And I'm just putting a little bit of glue here. And then I'm just going to pull it over and make sure it's all in the right position. Now this is going to be covered up, at least the inside will be, when I redo the inside covers. But I wanted a finished edge to show on the outside once the whole book is done. So the only thing this needs to do now is dry, and then we can go on to the next part of this little book making or book cover project and get into the fun stuff with making ephemera and that sort of thing. Alright, so, oh, and by the way, you can see from the inking in the last section how good it turned out. So I think it actually was a blessing in disguise, in the sense that putting ink on it just brought out the richness of the swirls much more. So I've used my rotary cutter to cut out the size of the spine that I want, plus enough to glue on each side. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of split the difference about like that. It looks about even. And I'm just going to put me a little mark here. And a little mark here. And then I'm going to take this over to my iron and iron down this fold and tuck these to the inside. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit of this Fabric Fusion permanent fabric glue across this. There we go. Okay, now I glued the paper that came on the spine, even though it's damaged at the top. I glued that back on because I wanted that authentic element. And then I also put 2 layers of my homemade glue mixture, like a Mod Podge type thing. And so what I'm going to do now is find my middle. And this, if I'm not mistaken, I made this 3.5 inches. Yes, I did. So half of 3.5 is 1 3/4. So I need the middle of this spine to be at 1 3/4. And the spine, I'm going to call it 1 1/4. And so that means it's 5/8. So right here. Okay, it's going to be the center of this little flower. So that's what we're going for right there. Now I'm putting this on first, not for any particular reason, I don't guess, other than that's what I want to do. So I'm just covering this in, I use this glue, it's this Aleene's original tacky glue. I use it for like heavier duty paper and fabric because it does work good. And I am going to add in some of these little open spots. I'm going to add just some dots of this fabric glue. I really should have put that bottle upside down. There we go. So I'm just going to dot in some of this fabric glue in places because I do want it to stay stuck. And now 1 3/4 and that little bitty flower. And I know which lopsided as I'll get out, but I need to come this way like that much. After I turned off the camera in the last segment, I realized I needed to build up this back layer a little bit, so I cut 2 pieces from, I think this was the back or an insert. It was an insert, I think, when I bought some new sheets, and I kept it. So I glued 2 sections together, and they're going to fit in here just like this. And I need to glue them down. I folded this up so that I would know exactly where to put them and how they needed to go in. So for this part, I'm going to use this this heavy PVA glue to go in, and then put these heavy duty cast iron irons back on and wait for it to dry. I'm just going to make sure that there's a good coating so it'll stick well, but not be so much that it excuse me, totally saturates the fabric on the other side. And I left myself just a very, very tiny amount of space on the top and bottom. Just making sure that everything is even and that it's seated. I come from the mountains of North Carolina, and we always drop the G's. But I'm married to an Englishman who always enunciates his T's. So I'm picking up a Duke's mixture of everything. Okay, so that's it seated in. Oh, I do want it to come down just. Okay. That's where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to put these irons right back over it, like so. And we're going to let that sit there till it's dry. And then, well, this is now dry enough to go on to the next step. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run me a somewhat generous line of glue when it comes out, right down almost in the middle, but not quite. That way when it spreads out, it will cover pretty much that whole little section. And then underneath, I have roughly a 1/2 inch on either side, and I have this little hump here from that cardboard underneath. So I am going to put this in here right up against, and I can feel when it is right against it. Just like that. And I'm going to put this here for a second because I don't want this to move while I'm doing the other side. And then once this is dry, I will be putting, I think, either some lace or some kind of trim along this edge, just to help join it, or hold it together and pretty it up from the outside. Okay. Now let me get my other iron, and we'll just put that there. Okay, we have to wait just a little bit longer. So earlier today I showed you how I made a mistake in not covering the little piece of cardboard that I put in, and I remembered that I had this lace that had this piping along the outside of it. And so I put that, glued it here and on the bottom, so that essentially fixes that issue. So what I want to do now is I have this piece that you saw me cut earlier, or at least I think so. I'm not sure now what I filmed and what I've not. But I'm going to cut it into here, and I'm going to go ahead and glue it down, and I'm going to keep just this part to sew my text block to when I make the pages. I've not made the pages yet. That will be the next part of this project, but if I go ahead and do this now, that will finish up this part of the cover. So this will be for the text block, and I'll probably put 5, at least 5. It could be 6, but at least 5 signatures on that. It's 2 1/4 inches wide, so it could definitely hold 5 or 6. But what I'm going to do right now, set that to the side, and I'm going to get out my ruler here, and I've already got my middle. I've just finger pressed this just enough to give it a crease so that I have a middle here. And I'm just going to cut it. Now, had this fabric been longer, I would have taken it all the way across, but it wasn't, and it certainly isn't now. So I'm going to put another, I have some plastic placemats that I bought just to do gluing on, and then I have my homemade podge mixture that I'm going to use. And so what I'm going to do is this half is going to go right up to the edge here. Actually, I think it was a little wider than I thought. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, good deal. Okay, so when the text block goes on, it will look like this. And it's not ideal, but since I didn't put my reinforcement in until after I had done it, I now know the order of operation. And when I first started journaling, making junk journals, that is, back in 2016, up until about 2 years ago, all the journals that I made were open spines. I found it very difficult to make a closed spine journal, and finally I did do one. In all that time I had done one, and so I was completely familiar with how to assemble, because it is different for an open spine than a closed spine. But my brain just didn't go there. So I think what I'm going to do now is just take this couple little extra threads off, because I probably will be putting some lace or something around the edge of this. I don't know for sure, but it is a possibility. We will see. So let me start over here on this side and put this over here. Move that out of the way and that out of the way. And this glue may turn pink because I noticed when I was cleaning the cover, some of this red slash rust color came up in the cleaning process. So I want it to fit pretty much right where this is. I'll have it overlap slightly, but not much. And take out a little bit of that excess. And then I'm going to add some along the fabric here, because I have to have a little bit to tuck down into this little bit of groove there's going to be here. Okay. Alright, now to do this I'm going to turn it this way so that I can put it exactly where I want it. And I use the handle of my paintbrush to put it into the grooves on all the ones that I do. Okay, there it is there. Okay, here's this. Now I need to add just a little bit more glue right through here. I know I'm probably talking way too low to be recording. I tend to stop talking or talk really low when I'm thinking. So hopefully you can hear me. Okay, now back in here. You want that as far in that groove as it will go so that when you fold your book it doesn't bunch up in there. That looks pretty good. And the one good thing about using this paintbrush handle is it's sharp enough to put it in the groove, but not sharp enough to tear it, or if this was paper, especially to tear it while it was wet. Okay, that's fine. I can deal with that. I'm going to put just a little extra glue right there, though, on that little corner piece. And let's check this little corner piece. Okay. So I'm going to put that one there, and that one there, and put that one in the middle. And I'll leave it till morning. It's about 11:30 at night. So I'll leave that till morning. That will, these two irons on the cover will, any moisture that will make the covers warp. Sometimes they do that if you only do one side. Now I've done both sides, but this will make them and keep them flat, while also just keeping everything pressed down and in one place. So we'll take one more look tomorrow and see how it turns out, and then I'll be ready to start the signatures. Well, it's the next morning, and I have not looked at this yet, so I'm hoping that everything turns out alright with well, all of this. But we will see. How it looks. It's nice and smooth and glued down, so it looks good all the way around. Now I will put corners on it, but I won't put corners on it until I've decided how I'm going to finish this edge. I might put a strip of lace around, or I might just pull the threads and leave. Like you can see, I like that look actually, so that might be what I go with, but I'm not going to make my decision just yet. But either or, I won't be putting corners on until I've done that. So this is as far as I'm going to go with the cover at this time. You can see that it folds up nicely. And so the next thing I'm going to start is putting some signatures together. But I'll be back in a couple of days with starting the signatures.